Hey there, welcome to day 40 of the 40-day Get Up and Go Challenge. I'd like to say it's over yet and I'd be celebrating and all happy, but guess what? We're not done yet. We're not going to be done today. I think I warned everybody probably a couple weeks ago when I decided I was going to go through all 7 areas of our life to give an example and to be an example of how we use and apply the SOAP model to each and every area of our life. And I'm just doing it and showing and sharing how I'm applying it to each of the areas of my life as an example so that you can figure out, okay, well, if she can do that, you know, she's just an old grandma lady, then I can do it too. So working on contribution. Today I call this a contribution because we're at the A in SOAP. And our SOAP is, of course, the framework, the foundational process that we're installing in our subconscious. So whenever we're faced with a challenge or an obstacle or a roadblock or something that just comes out of left field and hits us up alongside the head, because I had those things happen a lot in my life, we all do as human beings, we know what to do. We handle it. We handle it in a way that will give us the best outcome for us. Because instead of just letting things hit us and then we react, we let them hit us because stuff's going to keep hitting us no matter how nice it would be. And it wouldn't really be that nice. It would be so boring. Think how boring life would be if we always knew with 100% certainty what to expect and what was going to happen day in and day out. I think we all have had periods of that in our lives, most of us anyway. And I lead a rather chaotic, crazy life. Not so much anymore in the last couple of years, but prior to that, oh my gosh, it was like a, you know what, show almost every day in my life because I was creating all that chaos. I'm not sure why, but apparently I needed it to keep me going and keep me energized. Well, once I discovered that I was creating all those things and that I could control it, I started handling things that came at me in a much more proactive way, meaning I had a process that I handled and that I did each and every time something came up. So instead of automatically just reacting and responding to what happened, I usually would take a deep breath and in my mind, I would run through this SOAP process. The SOAP process became my process of cleaning up and handling situations instead of just instantly reacting. I bought myself some time, and now it happens so fast. I go through the SOAP process in like 30 seconds, all of them. I'm doing it in like 4 days at a time here to show how to break it down. But once you do it and you practice it and you've done it a few times, by the time we're done with this challenge, should have gone through it 7 times, maybe all in the same area of your life that's the most important one for you to work on right now. Maybe you're having big challenges in your relationships and you've gone through this challenge with me, or if you haven't, go back and start at the beginning. I'm not going to take the videos down. I'm not going to erase them. I'm not going to dismantle this group tomorrow or the next day when we're done. I'm not going to. I want you to have the information. I want you to know that you can install this into you just like I have into myself and feel so much better about the changes and the challenges that come your way. I am one of those people that I think personally has been the least affected by the COVID-19 virus. Now, it isn't because I'm not at risk, because I'm in the age high risk category. I am in the physical challenges high risk category. I have an ICD, I have inflammation. I've had health challenges my entire life and stuff like that. So I'm having to be more careful than the vast majority of the population. Yet, I'm not very fazed by it. I'm not stressing out. I'm not freaking out. I'm not, because of social distancing. I'm still doing, with the exception of going out to eat and social get-togethers, I'm doing a lot of the same things that I've been doing for the last couple of years. And part of what has equipped me and prepared me for not being freaked out about COVID-19 is this exact process I'm teaching you over and over and over again today, yesterday, for the last 40 days. Today's day 40. And then prior to that, the entire month of April, I went through the Get Up and Go Challenge as a 30-day format. Didn't go through the SOAP model 7 times for each category, but I went through it for, I don't even remember, but I know I did physical, relationships, probably physical, financial relationships for sure. And I'd have to go back and watch the videos myself or look at my notebook to see what I did in each of those. But each time I go through it personally, I am adding to or tweaking or changing the habits and the rituals and the things that I put in place to ensure that I continue to move toward the results I want in each of the areas of my life. And I want you to do the same. So contribution is the one I'm going through now. A for contribution. A, of course, stands for action, right? Nothing happens in our lives unless we do something, unless we take some action, unless we take some of the choices and the options and the things we brainstormed yesterday as the O in SOAP, and look at some of those alternatives and say, all right, well, wow, I made this nice list of alternatives. Guess what? Making that list of options is taking action. So if you think you can't take action, if you did that exercise, if you even thought about possible options, although I will contend you should write them down or make a list, physically writing things down solidifies it in our world and in our minds and in our commitment to it. Just the act of writing stuff down. So even though I can't really see what I write down very well these days, unless I break out the magnifying glass, I still physically write things down, because even if I cannot read them, most people can just read them and see them, and so they get a visual reminder. So you get a reminder of what you're creating, because writing things down creates them, right? That starts to create them more concretely in our lives. So action. A is, of course, for action. Now, action with respect to contribution, I'm going to go look at my list of I don't know, I did more than 10 things. I probably had like 25 or 30 things on my contribution possible options list, right? So I will look at that, and you will look at your list, or you will think of something else will pop into your mind, and you're going to take action on it. When? We're going to take action on it now, immediately if you can, but by the end of today for sure. Today, before you go to bed, before your head hits the pillow, you want to have taken some sort of action to move you from where you are right now to where you want to go. It can be a teeny tiny thing. It can be a Google search. It can be phoning a friend. It can be, writing down and mapping out how you're going to take action on one of those things. But you have to do something. Guess what? Mapping out a plan and creating a plan for how you're going to implement one of those things on your options list, that is absolutely positively taking action. It's moving you toward what you want. Action, and I'm going to ask if you all would like to have a longer, not a master class, but a longer demonstration or a longer discussion and a longer teaching on how to choose among alternatives, because when we get a bunch of options, one of the things that can stop us, we could want to procrastinate, we could want to find the perfect next step, and there is no perfect next step. There's only the next step that's perfect for you, and only you know what that is. But there are tools and there are strategies and there's frameworks and there's guidelines and things I could teach you and share if you care, if you need that information, if you want that information. Put in the comments below that you want more information about selecting among alternatives. I think I probably have shared the plus or minus method. The quickest, dirtiest, easiest way to decide something. The best tools are the simple ones, the ones that we use. Mel Robbins wrote a book called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or the 5-second rule, not 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the 5-second rule. And she teaches people, the main premise of that book, and pretty much the only premise of that book, is that we need to take action. And sometimes we need like the blast off method, get ready, get set, go. Everybody knows that when you hear go, you start running the race. Everybody knows when you hear go, you dive in the pool and you start swimming. Or when you hear that gun that starts the race. But sometimes we need to do that to ourselves. I love I call it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 blast off, because it gets me to take action immediately. Sometimes there's stuff I don't want to do, right? I'm like a lifelong recovering procrastinator, and I haven't recovered 100% yet. It's one of those things that it's kind of inherent in our different type natures, and mostly it's a habit that we formed over the years because we thought it served us well. It's the same thing with perfectionism. Perfectionism is just a way of overthinking, and it's usually based in fear, just like procrastination is. Excuses, objections, it's all based on fear. Procrastination to me is based on fear, and the only way to overcome fear is to take action. Action trumps fear each and every time. As soon as I take a half a step, I don't even have to take a whole step towards something that I want, the fear just starts to disappear and fade away, because once we prove to ourselves that we can do something and that it didn't kill us, then there's nothing to be afraid of anymore. Now, if a bear is chasing you, I say run fast, be afraid. But otherwise, most of the things that we nowadays are afraid of as human beings, it's just ridiculous. We take and we automatically go into this fight or flight stance if someone disagrees with us, if we have to step out of our comfort zone, even the teeniest fraction, if we have to ask for help, if we have to even ask a question or speak up for ourselves. Some people are absolutely positively paralyzed with fear in doing that. So the best way to overcome that, take an action, any action toward what it is that you're afraid of. So our action item today, the thing that we're doing today is with respect to the A in SOAP, is we're going to take immediate action on something. We are going to do something today. We are actually going to do something. We're not just going to think about doing something. We're not just going to keep, oh, I've got all the steps mapped out in my head. I've got a list in my head. I know what to do. No. Knowing what to do and doing what you know to do are two entirely different things. Today is all about taking action, and then you're going to share in the comments below one action that you took. I don't care how tiny it is. I wrote out my goals. I wrote out my goals for this area of my life. I got on Google and did a search. I do this all the time so automatically. Yesterday I was thinking about something about my health and my well-being and my physical well-being. During the 40-day challenge, this is actually day 40 of me. Physically, I gave up sugar. No sugar, no sweets. Now, for a caramelaholic, I am definitely a sea salt caramelaholic. This was a challenge. It really was a challenge. And today's day 40. I won't eat any sugar today, but I probably am going to have a sea salt caramel tomorrow. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But I probably will have at least, I'll just have one. And now that the 40 days are up, I can see 40 days is a long enough time to see what kind of an impact it's had on my health and my well-being. And I will look at that more clearly tomorrow and say, okay, how has that worked out for me? Is it worked out? Is it something I'm going to continue to do? It's definitely something I'm going to cut back on. For the most part, I don't really need much sugar. I definitely don't need added sugar, and I definitely don't need added salt. Those are two things that I've experimented with, and salt is super bad for me with inflammation. Sugar is the same way. I'm one of those folks, I think I can look at a fancy dessert and it adds pounds to me whether I even consume it or not. And that's a belief thing, by the way. That's a limiting belief, right? If you have a belief like that, those are the things we need to, under our emotional well-being, start to unravel and take out of our life and our existence. So action, we're going to take action today. The other thing with respect to contribution that I'm thinking about, and I want to talk about that just for a minute, is legacy. I gotta think, I gotta be really honest. Until recently, I never thought about legacy at all, or what I'm overall. I've known what I want to overall create in the world and the impact I want to have. I understand the impact I want to have. We talked about that yesterday a bit. But as far as a legacy, I have never considered or thought about the legacy that I'm going to leave for my children and my grandchildren and the world as a whole. I just haven't given it any thought. So today, maybe part of my action will be to spend a few minutes thinking about, what do I want to leave behind? What do I want my legacy to be? And that's a different question than what do I want my impact to be? Because impact is now. Legacy is in the future. What do I want to leave in the future so that when I am gone, because guess what? Like everybody else, I'm checking out for good one of these days, and I won't be here anymore. What is the legacy? What do I want to leave behind to make the world a better place? How do I want to impact the world? Right now is what am I going to do now to make an impact on the world? To me, impact is now, legacy is the future. So think today for a minute or two. It doesn't have to be a lot, but if you're like me, I have never really thought about what is my legacy going to be? How do I want to leave my mark on the world? I guess that's a way of looking at it. How am I going to leave my mark on the world? So action item, for me, contribution. For you, whatever area it is, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relationships, or contribution. Mine is contribution. And I don't even know what the action item is going to be today. I got to think about, what do I want my action item to be from my list? And again, if you want to see a more in-depth discussion of how do we make decisions, how do we make choices, how do we choose among alternatives, I actually wrote a book, geez, it's got to be 20 years ago now, called PSDM, Problem Solving and Decision Making, which just goes into a 7-step, more in-depth process of how do we make decisions, how do we solve problems, how do we make change happen in a positive way in our life. And that change, that's all part of me. And there's so many different ways of making decisions and modalities. We could talk about the 5-second rule. We could talk about important versus urgent. We could talk about, there's dozens of models. We could pick a couple of them And I say the simpler the better, because why? The simple solutions are the ones we're more likely to use. That's why Mel Robbins' 5-second rule is so popular. Anybody, anywhere can use that strategy. It's just like my dad's plus or minus strategy. Anybody, anywhere can use that strategy. You can do it in your head, or you can do it on paper. Again, I say on paper is more powerful. That's up to you to decide. Sometimes we don't have pen and paper available. Sometimes I'm on a walk and I think of something and I want to decide among alternatives, and I just start firing off in my head, well, what are all the benefits of doing this? What are all the negatives of doing this, plus or minus? And then by the time I'm done with my walk, I've got an action that I can take immediately. Never underestimate the power of action, no matter how small. And now is the only time we can ever affect, right? We can only ever impact this very moment. It's the only time we can, proactively do anything is instantly now, in this moment. Now we'll have another moment in a now, but now is the time we have to act. That's it. Go out, have an absolutely incredible, amazing day. Do your A, take your action, share in the comments below that you've done it. I will do the same as soon as I figure out what I'm going to do, and I will be with you tomorrow. Sorry, we're not done yet. We can't leave mid soap. We can't soap up, lather up, and not rinse it off, unless of course the power goes out and we have no water, and then you figure it out. But there's always a solution, right? There's always a solution to anything that any of us ever face. That's it. That's all I've got today. Have an absolutely amazing day. And if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. Otherwise, I will be with you tomorrow. Bye.